Hello, everyone. We are going to have a slideshow going up of pictures from our in-person symposium while we wait a few more minutes for a couple more people to filter in. So welcome to our mini Be Nice virtual symposium. We'll be here for about 25 minutes, maybe less, going through what we found from our in-person, both middle school and high school symposiums, what you can do to find that information on the portal, but we will give it a couple more minutes in case anybody was going to join us. I wish your slideshow had music to it. So this is a picture of a work WERQ instructor that came to the middle school symposium to run a exercise class with those middle school students. So that was really fun. Hello, Parchment Middle School students. Hello, Royal Oak group. And hi, Jennifer and Katie. So it looks like it is at time to start, and I will let anybody else in if they filter in. So I'm just going to play a couple more of these photos. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for spending a couple minutes with us today to talk about our middle and high school symposiums. We did a few interesting activities that we think that you could easily take to your school. And one right here, if you can pause here, Isabella, is an exciting activity. We've talked a lot in the past about lunchtime and how to get people to engage with one another. But really what we did is force people to be at a table with somebody they didn't know, because when people showed up, hi, Richard Middle School. Hello. They came and we gave them a name tag, and their name tag was a certain color. And then we had that certain color break up into a certain group. So everyone was mixed up from different schools. And at lunchtime, we just had on the table a question, right? Pretty easy. So those were conversation starters at lunch. So what do we got next? What's our next video or picture, Bella? Cool. So we're eating lunch. I just wanted to point out a couple of these photos. We're talking about facilitating lessons. So our new location of the Mental Health Foundation of West Michigan is on 68th Street, and it is in a high school building. The high school building, the old South Christian High School building, was purchased by, you can keep scrolling through, Bella, was purchased by the Special Olympics of West Michigan. And we have a lot of different organizations that are in this building that have to do with support of individuals with disabilities. So we have disability advocates, autism advocates of Kent County, and some other organizations. So one thing that we first started off with is talking about where we are as far as Be Nice. Why would we be in a Special Olympics of West Michigan building and collaborating with these other organizations? And the main reason for that discussion was that mental illness is a disability. So really taking our conversations with Be Nice, both in middle school, all the way through high school, building up that conversation of, yes, when someone has a change in how they are thinking, acting, and feeling, it can cause changes to their brain, right? Which can cause changes to the way that they live, laugh, and love. So really our first piece of this day, of this symposium, was taking seriously that Be Nice is an action plan for our mental health. Yes, it encompasses, it's the way that we treat each other, and we need to treat each other in a way that fosters connectedness and kindness, but ultimately that my mental health, if I'm concentrating on my notice, invite, challenge, and empower, really can be fostered in an awesome way. It's an action plan for mental health. And then secondary too, it's an action plan for suicide prevention. So we had those early discussions of saying, this group, this is our mission. All right, so this is being recorded, so I know some of you might be having audio problems, but we're going to go quickly into the next part. That's the high school symposium right there, with several individuals. So we missed you, but we're really glad you're here today. So I'm going to pull up my screen, and I'm super excited that some students are on the call today, because the main thing that we will show you today is from the portal. So I want to walk through just 1 second how to be on our Be Nice School portal. So some of you have been here, some of you have not. Where you're going to go is beniceonline.com. So if you are a student of a school that participates in Be Nice, we want you on this portal. It is completely safe for all students. And this is where you're going to get your information about the new stuff going on, and also what other schools are doing. So I went to beniceonline.com again, and I would scroll down here to sign up if I had never been there. Make sure you use your school email address. You're going to make up your own password at beniceonline.com. When you've submitted it, Candace will accept you, and then we are going to move on to be getting in. So it might send you an email to say, hey, you are admitted to the Be Nice portal. So here we are, we've logged in at beniceonline.com. I'm gonna scroll all the way over here to the middle and high school tab and click on Symposium. And we have 2 really awesome sheets here of everything that we did at our middle school symposium and our high school symposium. I'm going to briefly go over our middle school symposium first. So really important about that day, first was welcome ourselves to a space that talks about mental health, talks about mental illness and getting people the help that they need, and ultimately, yes, talks about suicide prevention. So we talked about mission statements, how to foster connectedness, but then really it was about empowerment. How every day can I walk into my middle school building and feel really resilient and empowered in my mental health. So a couple things we did here that you could bring to your school, and this could work at a high school too, is one of those pictures was of a movement class. So yes, we have movement in PE, but do we often talk about how movement of our bodies fosters changes positively in the chemicals in our brain? That is number one, really the best way that I can positively affect my mental health is to move my body, which could move the chemicals in my brain. So we invited a YMCA instructor to come and have a dance class with us. It was really awkward at first, and then everybody got into it. So think if you're having a Be Nice week or a Be Nice day, you might ask someone within your school that leads exercise classes to lead a session where you talk about the relationship between moving our bodies. So it's not necessarily exercise. Sometimes when we call it exercise, we label it as physical health, but it's moving my body to move around the chemicals and release those feel-good chemicals in my brain. So that was so super fun. There were some really fun songs to dance along to. The next thing that we did is we made empowerment posters. So if we've seen the Be Nice movie, right, with those 4 scenes, Denard, Maddie, Travis, Abby, when we see Maddie, she's one of the characters in our movie. And if you don't know what movie I'm talking about, that is a must see for all Be Nice leadership students. I'll show you where it is in a minute. Denard, Maddie, Travis, Abby. Maddie calls a number to get some help because she sees a poster, right? So making sure that I have posters of what we are doing around my school. So we have a presentation and some info and some ideas right here on this piece of paper that you could click on. Another all student activity in a Be Nice school that fosters connectedness and reduces stigma is our whole stigma bricks and mirror wall. So I am going to, I'm going to share my screen with sound, but I'm going to play this.
The Be Nice Committee is here to explain this wall.
Stigma is using painful words directed to someone going through depression or mental illness.
Stigma needs to be eliminated.
Everyone is affected by depression and mental illness.
Choose to be nice and remove the stigma. Choose kindness, it feels good.
Stopping stigma means to stop using words like these. Let's tear down the stigma.
Yeah!
All right. So what happened here is students were asked to put up some words that might be stigmatizing, right? Labels about mental illness that we've heard before in the past. And then we tore it down, and they made a video that they played on the announcements, but students were able to see that stigma wall. So here's a PDF explaining the entire activity. It's a really great one to do before or after spring break, right? If you think a little bit farther down the way, because we're creating some visual stuff to go on at our school. So really great stuff. Again, this is a full page of what we did at the middle school student symposium. So some ideas there. And I think that continue to watch as we go through high school, because really all of these activities could be used in both places. One more thing I want to say about middle school Be Nice is if you have Be Nice programming in your elementary, middle school is really the place that we are transitioning, and I know it is a big job, transitioning the conversation from be nice, right? Being nice is how we treat each other. We're really talking to Be Nice elementaries about increasing that conversation to be nice. What is my mental health? Notice my mental health, invite, challenge, and empower, right? Middle school is really where I dive into those 4 steps of the action plan. So remember, as a Be Nice member, notice, invite, challenge, and empower. Any activity I do, I'm going to put it under one of those words in those categories. So what does notice mean? I know you could all shout it out. Notice what is good, what is right, what is different about my mental health. Invite someone to have a conversation about what you've noticed. Challenge the stigma, but also challenge people to get help, right? What resources do I have at my middle school? Where is the counseling office? Who are our counselors? Do we have okay to say? Maybe I'm making a poster about that. And then empower. What we really concentrated on in the symposium was empowering my own mental health, thinking about coping skills. Here is where I will pause and bring us to this piece of paper. And I think I should stop sharing my screen, so I should put my thing up, right? So this is our book, and it says High School Symposium. And I know when some of you got this in the mail, it was jarring, but it was created in partnership with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and there was an accident, and they only printed the ones that said high school on the front, but they are exactly the same. So this is a book full of empowerment. So if you have those in front of you, if you haven't before, have your liaison connect with Isabella if you don't have these books, and we can send them to you. These books have included some information about the action plan, but really what it is are a week of gratitude page. I've got at the present moment page, what I see, what I hear. This is a personal packet for an individual student to think about fostering resilience with mental health. What does that mean? That means every day, me taking care of how I think, act, and feel. So I'm challenging you as a group. Maybe you're not filling these out together, but every meeting, you kind of decide on one that you're going to fill out. So keeping it so that it doesn't just sit on my desk at home. We might go through every one of these pieces as the year goes on and next year and say, all right, I've got a page here on positive coping skills. What does that mean? What is a coping skill? Can I go through and highlight 3 of these that work for me? So this is a great way to check in with yourself as a Be Nice leader of how I'm here to help others. We're spreading the word about mental health and mental illness prevention, etc., talking to people about reducing stigma, but how am I taking care of my own mental health? And here is the booklet that will help me to think of those things. All right, next up is to review our high school symposium. This was a little bit different in that we talked about high school leaders being able, we had the same empowerment posters, We talked about taking mental health seriously, and please watch this presentation and info. But then we also talked about facilitating lessons as students. All right, so I'm going to bring us to this PowerPoint. This was about looking on the portal as a student and saying, here are some lessons that we could teach to other students. So your students and you all right now are kind of yawning and saying, okay, Kat's been talking for a long time. If one of you were up here giving this presentation, you would have all ears of your peers. And Be Nice is a student-led program. So you're definitely in the realm of advocating for activities, you're doing stuff around with maybe posters, but are you running lessons? Maybe are you talking in front of a group of other students? This can be done at an assembly, sure, but now we're moving into, there's time during the day that you might be asking for the ability to facilitate a lesson. Now, I'm not talking about a teacher's lesson that is 45 minutes. I am talking about a quick explanation of one of the steps of the action plan. And we have very, very detailed work for you to work off of on the portal. So I'm going back to the portal here, and I am going to go under activities. For all of you, activities, this is our favorite tab. We love it so much. There's so much stuff here. So again, beniceonline.com. You've got your login. You're in here checking it out, right? So I'm going to go to guided learning videos. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit. And I might think about, all right, what age? Maybe I'm a high school group that's been invited to come to one of our elementaries in our district. Woo, that would be so awesome. So maybe I've got an elementary group. So right here it says recommended ages. We've got elementary. We have 1st through 4th. I am going to bring us down a little bit to looking at Dee's empowerment story, because even though this is recommended for high school, all of us can watch this right now. So what happens when we talk about mental health, and then when we talk about when someone might become unwell, we start to hear stories. And other people's stories are really an amazing way to learn what somebody went through, how they got through it, how I might relate to that story. Perfect, right? What happens with us is we hear that story. Isabella right here, wave to us, Bella. Isabella will record someone telling that story, and then she will go to a really awesome site called Powtoon, Powtoon, and she'll create an animated video behind it, right? So this is something that you could do within your group. You could create one of these things. The important part, this is very important, that when I am facilitating a lesson to other students, I need to give them something to walk away with, right? I'm holding up my piece of paper here. So I've got a discussion handout. So if you were all with me today, I would pass out this piece of paper, and there's just a couple short questions on it. And it asks me about Dee's story, right? So let's watch it, and then we will be able to identify where we saw the action plan within this story. Should I do Dee, Isabella, or what do you think? How long is Amy's?
Annika's is good.
Okay, let's do Annika's. Thank you so much, since you made it. Share with sound again.
I want to point out there is, I have a middle school one that I'm working on, so that will come out in the next few weeks. So if you're in middle school specifically, we'll make sure that you get that and get the worksheet to go along with it.
Awesome. Here we go. Let's
there
listen
may be
to
traumatic
Annika's
experiences in our life that bring about a change in our mental health. In Annika's story, pay attention to when she first started to experience.
Sorry, I think I have to go to YouTube to get it to go full screen. One moment.
First started to experience changes in her mental health and what her risk and protective.
At the beginning of my freshman year of high school, I was tragically confronted with my aunt's suicide. I struggled to understand how to process her death and her life. At the time, I thought her illness and her death were unrelated. So as I connected the dots, I realized I never really knew who my aunt was behind her illness. I wanted to hold on to the pieces of her identity that shined through, but I couldn't because of my physical and emotional distance from her. As my family moved through their grief, I was building a wall to protect me from my emotions. I eventually noticed that my internal distress was too strong. My anxiety submerged my sophomore year of high school and manifested into panic attacks, ruminating thoughts, and isolation. I hid behind perfectionism. I made things appear okay on the outside when I was struggling on the inside. So I confided in my mom, who helped me seek professional help. I developed a relationship with my school counselor, who eventually encouraged me to pursue mental health advocacy. It was uncomfortable to be vulnerable in front of my peers, but I grew into the role. It became an empowering outlet for me as I connected with other students and pushed to fight stigma. That experience helped me develop confidence and stability, two things I thought I was bringing to my next chapter. I believe I conquered my mental illness, having all the tools I needed transitioning to college. Fast forward to the beginning of my sophomore year of college. Depression, anxiety, panic, disordered thought patterns and actions, and suicidal ideation took residence. This time, I was familiar yet terrified of how my mind and body were sinking into despair. Everyday activities felt impossible. I couldn't focus, sleep, or interact. All I wanted to do was hide in my room and disappear. Everything felt like a trigger, and I had no place to rest my mind. I wondered how I moved into this state so fast because I thought I had figured out my mental illness. As my symptoms escalated, I admitted myself into an inpatient facility. They assigned me a different diagnosis every day. However, I left feeling even more hopeless that I was too complicated and too messed up to be fixed. I had not only lost myself to my illness, but I didn't even know what that illness was. I was under the impression that with a proper diagnosis, I could receive proper treatment. Since that didn't seem possible, I thought giving up would be easier. That would take trying out of the equation. But I still kept moving forward, even when the darkness overwhelmed me. Sometimes moving forward meant taking a shower. Other times it meant recognizing that completing simple tasks is moving forward. I took the following semester off of school and was searching for answers. I started weekly counseling and began my journey to sift through the layers, both personal and biological, that led me here. I committed to doing the work, and I made sure the people around me kept me accountable. One of my first building blocks was pursuing an internship at Be Nice. I tapped into my passion for mental health advocacy and was reminded that I have purpose and grew confidence from the projects I worked on. I committed to acknowledging my strengths, making positive self-talk a priority, and deriving purpose from small actions. Through my evolving journey with mental illness, I have learned that a diagnosis is simply a title. Shame is destructive, and I refuse to cover myself in it. And as I grow, I will continue to learn more about my illness, but more importantly, about myself. Seeking help and investing daily in my mental health tools reminds me I have the ability and responsibility to keep moving forward. Today, I can relate to my aunt in a way I never thought possible. I am responsible to myself, but also to her memory. I will continue through this journey for myself and for others. She was triumphant in every day that she fought for. She was brave, and her sensitivity was a gift, as is mine.
All right, so what you're going to do is first preface, make sure that you know what age group you're talking to, right? So this was high school recommended age. And then you might say, this is going to be a tough topic, but the way that we hear stories is the way we start conversations, and we need to start conversations early and often about mental health. So we might go over what were some of her risk factors. She had genetic history, right? We might talk about that the risk factor might increase my risk, but it doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to have this thing. Who noticed a change in Annika's behavior, right? Going back to the action plan. How did that counselor empower her, right? So giving her tips and tricks. In college, what signs and symptoms of depression and anxiety did Annika notice in herself? So I'm thinking about, okay, there's time in the day when I've got sophomores and juniors taking tests, and maybe freshmen and seniors don't have something to do during this period of time. Can we ask for that time? Maybe I like this personal story. Remember, you could make your own. You always want to go back to the action plan of, all right, what was the resolving, right? How was this person empowered? Down here further on the same page are guided worksheet and answer key lessons. So we've got one about mental health, middle and high school students. We've got one about depression, specifically about anxiety, one about risk factors, protective factors, and then a lesson plan for elementary, reading the book 1. So you might read these and then you could say, we could act this out, or they're pretty short. You could put it up on the screen after you pass out the worksheet and go over it for a couple of minutes, right? So this, how we do this now, it could also be teachers sending this out to one another so that I'm doing it in my homeroom. But I am saying that having you in front of the room, having the conversation is so much more empowering. If I go back to this middle and high school tab, I go to the Be Nice movie and links worksheet. I know I'm going pretty fast, but you'll be able to find these things. The Be Nice School movie with Denard, Maddie, Travis, and Abby. Again, if you haven't seen it, it's great. I can go back to it. I can play it again. I could pick one character that I think we really need to focus on. Abby, that last character, it talks about how she was filmed in class. People shared that bad film of her. And then she really was affected by what people were saying about her. Someone reaches out across the aisle and says, hey, I noticed what happened. You shouldn't have to feel this way. This is awful. Let's walk to the counseling office. I'll go with you. That's why they're there, right? So remembering these resources are there again. And when we take and kind of cut them up and decide, yes, we have the power to be in front of a classroom or a group of students, facilitating this little bit. So you all have social emotional learning time coming up, really being an advocate and saying that we fit in with this. One more thing that I want to show you is that a lot of times we will have topics that pop up during the school year. This year, at the beginning of the school year, it was about school safety. So right here on the middle and high school tab of the symposium, I'm challenging all of your groups to bring up this school safety talking points worksheet, which is in one of those black boxes, and have a discussion within your group about school safety. Well, how does school safety work into the Be Nice action plan? That's mental health. It 100% does. Notice the good and the right. What good things do we do to keep our community safe? What would make you feel more safe at school, right? Other conversations. Do students know when and where they can go to get help regarding safety? Okay to say posters. So it's other topics like that, knowing, wow, that does fit into mental health. Right? Someone coming into this building and not only feeling psychologically safe, physically safe, we can start those conversations. Now, if I have a speaker that's talking about school safety, maybe talking about weapon safety, possibly, I could have that. Maybe I'm introducing them as the Be Nice group. So different topics might pop up, and we know that we're not the umbrella over everything, but it helps us when we look at this, how to continue with those same 4 words, because that is where we really learn, is repeating. Notice the good and the right, but also notice the difference, right? Can we make any changes? Is there anything else that we can do? Invite myself to talk about it. What do I wish they offered at school regarding school safety? Challenge. Let's challenge ourselves to take a step in this. We can add posters for safety hotlines. We can encourage students to report what they've noticed, 100%, and then empower. Do we have a student organization fair? So we found, and we know these numbers, that individuals who are involved in student groups, just like you are right now, are at less risk than other students. And what does that mean? They are more connected. Other people are looking out for them. So my last point of the day that we talked about at our student symposium is I'm challenging each of your groups, if you don't have it already within your school, a student organization fair. So that is a fair, whether it's in person, you have tables, and there's a whole worksheet on the portal about the student organization fair. There's an activity, it's under the activities tab, and it walks us through, maybe you're doing it at the end of the school year and you're inviting incoming freshmen, possibly, right? So are we identifying, maybe there aren't any groups that talk about this specific hobby, right? Maybe we don't have a crochet group. Maybe some students would want to make a table about that. So it's having the Be Nice group think about not only how to keep my mental health saved myself in this book, right? My own empowerment and resilience, but also how can we encourage students to help one another with that? The best way is to be in a group that has other peers than me outside of the classroom. So it could be even, I invite the local equestrian organization, right, that hosts free student days that students could go and ride horses. That's just an example that I know happened at Rockford Public Schools. So it doesn't have to be something necessarily within my school. So student organization fair would be so super awesome. And that is the last piece that we talked about at the symposium. Anything else, Isabella?
Yeah, can you go back to the high school page?
Absolutely. Right here?
Nope, the symposium handout.
Oh, yeah.
So this is one more thing just for you to take away. We had a student-led or a student panel where we had live Q&A questions from the audience. So as you go back, thanks for listening to us today. I see some of you have to head to your next class, but we really wanted to give you a chance to watch the student panel. So there's a video on there. There's also a list of questions. So this might be something that you want to use in your own group where you're discussing these questions that were asked from fellow students from all over. And there's a full page on there, but use these as inspiration for your own group. And maybe you want to create a little FAQ about what is it that we're doing? What's our mission? How do we get more people involved? How do we get our message out there in the school more? So make sure you check that out. And really these pages are just for you guys to take home, to look at and go over the information that we covered in person that day and sort of run your own session at your own school within your group because you were not able to be with us, which we missed you, but that's why we put these awesome sheets together.
So if anybody needs to go, feel free, but I'm just going to play us 1 minute of one of our students at the high school symposium introducing why he wanted to be part of the panel. So let's play that. Whoa, that's not the right video. What happened? Sorry, got it.
That's a really good. So I think there's a lot of stigma around guys being aware of their mental health, and I think that's wrong. And I think that we just need to take steps in our high schools to make sure that guys feel like they're equally as important as girls when talking about mental health. Some ways we could do this. I would say I think we need to focus on it more. Maybe make some like designated things for guys, because there's always like chats for girls. Like we have a class in our school, which Vandy holds right there, and it's women's studies, and they have like a day every week that they just have like girl talk, but we don't have anything like that for guys. And I think if we had something like that, it was a safe space that we could share our feelings, that would benefit everybody.
The suicide rate.
So that was a high school student, a young man from Spring Lake High School. And I just thought that was a really interesting thing when we think about, all right, we're doing Be Nice again, and when maybe we're running out of ideas, continue to think about those different groups that maybe need something to focus on, right? So I know we focused on coaches a lot in the last couple of years as the Mental Health Foundation, but then maybe thinking about how can we get a couple more guys on our group. I love seeing what I'm identifying from far away as a couple guys from that Parchment group. Love it, love it. But thinking about those things and how to increase that conversation with different types of groups. But that is it. Please reach out to us if you have any additional questions. We just did a quick overview of where to find that information, and you always have Isabella Buck at benice.org to reach out and email. I'm Kat. I am really excited that you showed up today. It's not as fun as seeing you in person, but hopefully we will see you next year here in Grand Rapids for our Be Nice Student Symposium. Thanks everybody so much. Have a great rest of your day.